Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Okay, we're going to get started up here. Just 1 second. And I'm excited to get going today. Just going to check out what's going on over here. Do one last tweet real quick. Just to make sure that people know that we're going live. Okay. All right, let's get things started. So, on today's stream, I kind of feel like I had a somewhat frustrating stream last stream, though I made a lot of progress. It was like hot in here, like temperature wise, and I was just kind of like struggling to figure out how the code that I had made worked. But I think I'm in a really good place with the architecture now for the overall game. We've got this kind of agnostic system for the camera flow working the way that we want it to, which is really great. Similarly, we kind of have like figured out some stuff with like how we want to incorporate the ink assets into the project, and generally thinking about how we want to control the flow, the overall flow of the game, which is really great. So today, like as a way of kind of shifting gears slightly away from that, and because I think I'm going to do a slightly shorter stream today, I'm going to be working on actually creating some 3D assets instead of working on Unity stuff. Just as like a couple housekeeping things, I kind of realized that that a lot of the streams have been kind of like laggy or dropping frames and stuff like that as a result of using Unity. I'm going to try to do some optimization. I know that there's like some stuff in Unity, like especially in 2020.2 or 2020.1 plus that streamline a lot of the process. I've been talking about this on stream for a while, but I think I need a fresh install. Just like the way that the compiler takes so long, it really shouldn't be taking as long as it has been. I don't know what the issue is there. So I need to do some maintenance work. I might get to that next week, but as an aside, as now that the architecture is done, I really need to spend some time creating some actual game assets, right? I spent a lot of time. I actually had a free day yesterday to do some extra studio work than I normally would. And I spent almost the entire day looking at shader graph. We can actually go over to Unity to look at this. I don't know if shader graph will actually display in this, but I can kind of show folks really quickly. I'm trying to get this look, I guess, that I'm going for. I can kind of highlight this actually. Hold on. I can kind of show this off. If you look kind of in the bottom here, is that actually going to show? Oh, for some reason, I thought that I had a window here that would show this like little browser, which is fine. But basically, I can post it in the chat maybe. I'm going for this look that kind of like has this this kind of offset print. What's called a colorgram, actually. The name of this kind of technique. Hey, hey there. My name is David. So I'm trying to go for this like look here that's like this colorgram, which is a black and white photograph that's been hand painted over. Not like maybe by hand, but that's like printed over. So you can actually see this is like almost like a CMYK like technique for anybody that's familiar with like offset printing. So there's like a blue color, there's this kind of like brown color, there's like this tannish color, and then there's maybe this like green color, right? So there's like maybe like 4 colors in this, right? What did I say? Blue, green, that like brown, and maybe this like orange yellow color, right? And so then that's used like over, that's like used as a print, right? And you can see this like offset registration marks. Again, you probably can't see it on the stream. I wonder if I could just kind of pop this open really quick. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, I need to put this over. Here we go. So this is like kind of what I'm going for here. I should move this out of the way at some point. But yeah, so this is like this postcard from this train station in Massachusetts, Revere Beach. I don't know where that is, but I thought this was just like a really good example of the look that I'm going for. But again, you can see this kind of like off registration marks here, which I just find really nice, but you can still see the detail of the black and white image from the like kind of original source material, or the original like photograph. So you're still getting the light and dark value from the like object, or like in this case like the model, but it's like being kind of stenciled over with this like single color effect. So I might kind of poke around and try to see how I could get this to work, but I was trying to do this, let's turn that off really, or actually what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just resize this quickly, because I want this to be, oh, that's funny, when I resize it, you're starting to get some of the halftones. So I'm just going to put this down here, because I'll use this as reference for stuff later. But let's go back over here. My day's going okay. Thanks, thanks, David. It's going okay. It's cooled off here considerably, which is really nice. Thanks for asking. How's your day going? I've already got my coffee from out in the world, which is great. But yeah, so I've got this like look here. It's not exactly what I'm going for. You can kind of see it a little bit better in the game here. But what I did is that I actually exported the UV map. Just got a cheeseburger. Wow, that's early. Or are you not in Eastern time? I don't know if you're on the East Coast, but a cheeseburger sounds good. So yeah, so I'm doing this thing where I'm like exporting actually the raw UVs of the object itself, and then I'm bringing that into just like really simply bringing that into. I'm actually exporting it as an SVJ or SVG, and then bringing that into Illustrator, creating a live trace of it to just maybe just like accentuate the lines that exist in the model. And then, oh, cool, David. Well, then a cheeseburger sounds really appropriate. And then I'm reapplying that back in as, I don't think that people can actually see. This is kind of a frustrating thing about Unity. Here, maybe I can kind of pop this in. Can I pop this in? Yeah. So here's my shader graph for this. So yeah, so then I'm popping this in as like a 2D texture that's sampling it, and then I'm just, before I was trying to get the back face of the original model. This shader graph is like kind of a mess right now. But yeah, I was just like sampling this, inverting the colors of this, and then putting that into the alpha channel of the object. And then this object actually has 2 materials associated with it. So it actually has, so that's this is like that shader graph here. And then I was like using this unlit material and then having the back face culling so that I was like getting the back of this. So I was like kind of experimenting with this a little bit to try to get that like stencil look. But it's not like getting quite the registration stuff that I was like going for before. So I might experiment with that a little bit today. And what I was thinking about doing is actually in Blender, let's switch over to that, switch back to that, in Blender of just rendering out like a static side view of the object as a completely, like a completely stenciled object, and then superimposing that onto the object in Unity. So I could, maybe I'll start with that, and then if that doesn't kind of go the way that I want it to by like, I don't know, 9 o'clock or my time, or maybe like 9:15, then I'll just move over and come back to doing some 3D modeling stuff and not worry so much. You can see in the, thanks David, yeah, I'm really excited about like how I can try to experiment with this. It's been kind of this like thing that I've been trying to invest more time in. It's like just learning shader graph a little bit more. As like a way of, I can actually kind of show this really quickly. I really wanted this thing that was like kind of a blend between almost like a watercolory look. Like, you see how this like shine or the sheen of this is like kind of going along the normals of this object. I kind of wanted to blend something that was like a watercolory look with this like color offset look. Again, I think that I'm just gonna have to do this like kind of the long way, which is like not such a huge issue, but yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at. So what I think I'm actually gonna do, I wonder if I'm just gonna save this as a separate model really quickly because I don't want to goof up my original one. Yeah, I'm gonna go into Blender. Ford car. O2. Stencil. Yeah, because I'm gonna like get rid of these materials really quickly. Cheers, David. Because I feel like even if I just like did like a quote-unquote green screen version of this, and I should go over to the world node and remove this paper texture. And I'm just gonna get oh, maybe I don't even need this. I'm gonna just use this. And then instead of gray, I'm gonna make this nice and bright. The problem is like, or what I was thinking about this is like maybe loading into yeah, I mean, this is going to look kind of funky. Let's try it out, and then again, I'll move on from here. So sorry, I'm like adjusting between like the two different programs and like how my brain works in each one of those. Cool, David. David, where are you coming from? Are you from the Discord, or are you from... Are you from Twitter? I'm just curious. And then I need to change the scale here. Oh, cool. That's great to know. Well, I'm super glad to have you. Super glad to have you. Cool, I'm glad I was recommended. Yeah, I'm just like kind of like working on some game dev stuff. So I'm gonna output this really quickly. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna save this as, and I might go into, I'm gonna make a new folder within my Unity that's maybe just called something like billboards for now, and use Ford car. Oh, I did this kind of incorrectly because I want to have film transparent. Yep, that's what I wanted. There we go. So now I'll save this image. So it doesn't really matter what the color is that I'm using here. I wonder actually if I turn down the highlight of this color, because I'm getting some of the detail of the model, which is nice. But let's just see. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to see how this works, or to see if this works. So let's go back to models, billboards, and then Ford car. Yeah, no worries. I know there is a bit of a lag, David. Don't sweat it. Ford car, billboard. So basically what I'm going to try to do, and let's switch over back to Unity, is that I'm going to try to load this billboard basically in as like an image. So I could kind of do that. Oops, I think I've goofed something up here. Yeah. Just 1 second. Compiling. Yeah, I was having issues with this before. David, do you mind me asking what country you are in? Oops, that made a mess. So I'm gonna undo that. Can I undo that? Undo, undo. There we go. So I'm just gonna create. Cool, Indonesia. Wow, that's amazing. That's great. Yes, that is absolutely a country, my friend. Oops. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, so I need this Z180 and then Y0. Can this be double-sided? And I know I am from Brooklyn, David, or I live in Brooklyn, Brooklyn, New York. I am not originally from this. I'm not originally from Brooklyn, but yeah, I'm from the United States. Originally, I'm from Virginia, which is a state, a kind of East Coast state. Sorry, I'm just looking up the dimensions of this thing. 1920 by 1080, okay. Oops. So ostensibly what I'm trying to do here, and I'm not doing a super good job so far because obviously the aspect ratio of this thing is like not working the way that I want it to. I'm going to get rid of all of this. I want this to be transparent so that it has that transparency layer back in. For some reason this takes like a long time. There we go. So don't receive fog. Man, I really don't know why Unity is just really chugging today. It's like not being very favorable. Okay, so I don't want this to cast shadows. Mostly my hobbies are game dev stuff. I guess that's like part of my job. It's not really a hobby per se. But don't know, what are my hobbies? I don't really have a ton of hobbies right now, because I've been kind of like working obsessively on this project. Okay, and yeah, I'm just like not. I don't have like a ton of extra time, so I think because of the stream and I don't know why. Again, like I need to just do a fresh install on Unity. There's like something going on where like all of the material properties and settings of this are just like, I don't know, just trying to tweak even one single thing on this is like making it kind of freak out, which I don't know why it is. But yeah, maybe I'm just like asking too much of it. So 1920 by, I should do this math really quickly. 1920 by 1080. So that's 1.7, right? So this is 1.78 by 1. Yeah, so that's generally the size of this, and then I can scale down from there. So I'm wondering, yeah, I'm developing a game. Yeah, yeah, so I'm looking for something kind of like this, and I feel like I actually haven't officially announced this game yet, Davin, but I'm kind of working on some of the early prototypes for it. But if you're interested in looking at some of my other games, you can definitely look at that's actually on the stream there, but I'll post it in the chat. It's like essaygames.itch.io. That's a good collection or a good resource for checking out some of the other projects that I've done in the past. So hopefully that gives you some indication of what I'm about. So this is kind of close to like what I was envisioning. The problem with this, I wonder how this is going to look when... Well, I think I need to adjust this slightly now. My car here. I wonder if I just... Well, I could keep this as is because I know that I'm going to tweak this because I don't want to have the entirety of all of the mesh here. I think it looks kind of interesting now. I wonder if I make this even semi-transparent. So that you can see some of the detail of the model underneath it. Yeah, that's good. And then I can kind of tweak the color while I'm here. And this will be kind of this like maybe blackish blue color registration. Now, maybe I want to bring back in some of the opacity. So yeah, so I can always like mask over this, or I could just use that as a mask, I guess. Yeah, maybe that makes more sense. Smoothest normal map, coat mask. I wonder if I like put this in the emissive color channel. Again, Unity is like really, really chugging for me. So I apologize for any of the delays. My favorite foods. I definitely like, I just had a bagel and I really like bagels. Really like bagels. That maybe sounds very like New York of me. I think that this should be. Yeah, you know, like I really like grilled cheeses. Those are like one of my favorite foods. Grilled cheese. I really like curry. Actually, David, I just made a curry dish last night. That was really, or 2 nights ago, I think. Yeah, 2 nights ago. That was like really, really yummy. It's just like yeah, this curry dish that I made. It's like with chickpeas and this like a paneer cheese with like onion and lots of garlic. I really like that. It's one of my favorite meals to cook, actually. So how do I just make this like the? I guess I can make the. Yeah, let's make like a shader graph for this, and I'm gonna just work on this for another 10 minutes and then move on. What about you, David? Do you have a favorite food? I'm gonna make an unlit shader graph, I think. Stencil outline. I'll work on this in the game view here. See if I can. Yeah, spicy food. Yeah, I like spicy food too. What kind of spicy food do you like? Let's do texture 2D. And I'll add a property here. That's a texture 2D stencil wrap. And we'll put the stencil map here. I know there's a lot of different types of spicy food. I really like spicy Indian food. I really like spicy like hot sauce, like spicy Mexican food. I think Mexican food is some of my favorite food. I don't know if you have Mexican food in Indonesia, but I would highly recommend it. It is very, very yummy. Like burritos and quesadillas I like a lot of things with cheese in them, I'll be honest. I like a lot of cheese-based things. I need to make this an exposed property. Like hot sauce? Yeah, totally, me too. Exposed. Oh no, I want that to be exposed. Yeah, I like a lot of different types of cheese. I kind of tend to prefer hard cheese to like creamy cheese. That's kind of just my personal preference. Do you have hobbies, David, that you work on, or that you not that you work on, but that you enjoy? I should say. Oh, no problem. I was just saying, do you have any hobbies? You asked me about my hobbies, but do you have hobbies that you enjoy? Drawing. Drawing is a really good hobby. I should really be drawing more. Cool. What kind of drawing do you do? You should post a link to some of your drawing if you have it. So this is a little bit more faint than I was hoping for, but I think that I'm kind of onto something here. So I'm going to come back to this. That's cool, David. I appreciate that. That's really good to just like kind of do it for fun, right? I think I need more stuff like that in my life. I think like the thing that is a hobby for me, I guess I could answer that question, is that I've been watching a lot of hockey. It's like it's the playoffs in America, the hockey playoffs in America, and yeah, so I've been watching a lot of hockey, which has been really fun, and that's definitely a hobby that I've been kind of indulging in is watching a lot of that. So again, the registration for this is like not quite what I'm looking for, and I think what I am gonna need to end up doing is, I wonder if I render this back out not as this color, but even just something like yeah. Do you have any sports that you enjoy watching? I'm gonna save over this. Yeah, that's more like it. I kind of like this. Football is in international football. I used to follow a lot more international football. Like I used to follow Premier League football a lot more than I do now. And like international football a lot more than I do now. Okay, I'm gonna come back to this because I feel like there's definitely some interesting stuff going on here, and I want to try to think about this, and I'm thinking about this also in relation to like these characters now too, like these like characters. I'm gonna work on this a little bit today and do some like re-rigging of some of these characters. But maybe what I want to do is that I want to actually create the entire like scene of these characters first, and then like position those in front of like an imaginary camera so that I can render out the stencils for them too. I think that might be really fun and interesting. Okay, cool. So this seems like okay for now. I'm like kind of content with this. I want to come back and definitely like reconfigure this slightly and tweak this and figure out how I can get the base outline of this mesh more than all of this like weird geometry stuff. But I kind of like how that looks right now, and I think it's actually getting the effect that maybe I was going for as well. Cool, so let's go back to Blender. And I'm going to create a new file. Yeah, sure, I'll save that stencil. I have my little checklist here. It might be hard to see on the stream, but I have my little checklist here. Hey, werewolf. So I have this prop list here of things that I need to make. So I'm just like looking at this really quickly. Temporary fencing, flagpoles, buckets, and stuff like that. Let's make trees, graph test. I don't want to worry about that stuff just yet. I think I want to go back and make some kind of multiple figures, because I think that would be fun to incorporate into the scene a little bit more. Yeah, let's do that really quickly. Or not really quickly, but let's do that. So I'm actually going to open that figure. Yeah, buddy 1. Break. Cool, no problem. For security reasons. No problem, David. Werewolf, how's it going? What are you working on? Or what are you doing today? Not working on, but what are you up to today? So here's my little buddy. But I want to kind of incorporate this buddy in relation to some other figures. So I have these kind of like good photo documentation of folks. What if I tried to do this like seating guy? That seems like a good idea. Just a bunch of guys standing around. Okay, so oops, I'm gonna go into pose mode. So this guy how did he look over here? I'm gonna try to model this kind of character right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but he's like on the lower left-hand side of the right-hand figure. So I realize that I don't see all of this stuff that I need to see. Hey Shane, good to see you, bud. Thanks for joining us. Shane, I'm super excited about our campaign. I think it's going to be really rad. I'm really excited to see your character come together too. This rig is sometimes confusing. Yeah, did you figure out some of that stuff that we were talking about in the Discord in terms of like your character? Hey David. Yeah, he's like looking pretty rough right now, right? But he'll get there, don't you worry. He's just hanging out. He's just kind of like sitting down, hanging out. I mean, the reason for this is because, right, like these need to come down. His like IK handles for his arms were looking pretty rough. Okay. Actually gonna, yeah, there we go. So I'm just trying to pose these guys. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna pose a lot of these figures here and then bring them into Unity as like, I think like as a group. This is being attached to, okay. Probably need to like tilt this. Yeah, there we go. Tilt him back a little bit. He's kind of looking a little bit funny right now. Oops. Oh, Arakoa. Cool. That's really cool. Where is the... I don't understand where the... trying to see like where the... His name is Aspang. That sounds really good, man. That sounds super fun. I can't wait to hang out with him. Oh, there we go. Okay. For some reason, this was... Oops. Okay, this guy's looking all right. Let's go back to my source image. He's kind of more tucked in on this side, but I don't know if that's going to work for the rig that I have, or the kind of blockiness of the overall rig that I have. Yeah, David was asking before about hobbies, and I guess I should consider that like kind of a hobby. We sometimes I'll play Dungeons and Dragons with a group of friends. Yeah, so David, I think that might be one thing that I do, to answer your question before. Yeah, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons, David? You should check it out sometime. It's really fun. It's like a lot of fun kind of encounters that you can have, and yeah, you can be like really kind of like silly and adventuresome in a way that's like kind of low consequences and low stakes. What other types of games do you play, David? Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, it is a game. It's a tabletop role-playing game. So it's kind of like it's kind of like fantasy oriented. So you're like, it's not a survival game. It's not a video game. It's a physical, game where you like roll dice and stuff. So a lot of games that are like RPGs, right? Are like based on the mechanics of this game. So it's actually a pretty old game that predates a lot of like computers and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm just like having a kind of weird time with this like arm, so I'm just gonna modify this slightly. Yeah, so it's like you can play as like wizards or like fighters or like knights or paladins. I don't know if you've ever played things like Diablo or stuff like that, but you know, a lot of the mechanics of games like Diablo are kind of based on how Dungeons and Dragons like works. If that helps at all. Yeah, there we go. So this guy is like more slumped over. And then he has like his jacket on, right? Or he has like a jacket over his shoulder. No, it's primarily like pen and paper. You play it with like a character sheet. So you have like why won't this like turn in the way that I want it to? There we go. You have like a character sheet that you like write down a lot of your stuff, a lot of your like stats and stuff like that on, and then yeah, you kind of then keep track of that those stats over the course of like the game. But yeah, you like fight monsters and stuff like that. And okay, let's see how this looks without the rig on it. I think that looks pretty good. This arm looks pretty stiff. So yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. The geometry here is like a little bit messed up. Maybe I just want to turn this. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Hey, see you later, David. Thanks so much for coming and checking out the stream. I saw that you also gave me a follow, which I really appreciate, man. I'm usually on Mondays and Thursdays, so hope to see you soon. Take care. Be well. Take care of yourself. Seems a little bit better. I'm doing like a lot of tweaking right now, but I actually kind of like the way that this looked. Yeah. Oh, maybe I need to like roll the hip down a little bit here. Oops. See. Yeah. I know it kind of looks like his butt is like going underneath the ground, but I think that that's okay. And then we want to bring the hat down. hide this other rig, I think, and maybe. This guy's belly is like out too far. Shane, what are you doing today, man? You doing anything fun? Cool. What's the project? What are you going to be working on? Project for fun or project for a client? Project for school? Project for what? I think that looks a little bit better. This arm needs tweaking. Oh yeah, sorry, I saw that you said that, Shane. You played a lot of Inside. We talked about that in the Discord, right? What did you think, man? Yeah, the environmental storytelling is like super rich. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, I like the way that studio Play Dead like does environmental storytelling. That's a good question. What's my process? My process is really like trying to do as much like research and writing as I can. So really trying to like understand the material of like what I'm working on. Again, like a lot of my projects kind of like start in writing. So I tend to kind of focus on like how a piece is like gonna feel as a written work first, and then I kind of like go from there into thinking about like characters, and then I really try to approach projects like as if they were like film projects. Like I create, like, you can kind of actually see. I'll show you in 1 second. Just trying to tweak this. There we go. I think I'm kind of like losing it a little bit here in the way that the shoulder is. Yeah, very rarely. I mean, like, I'm such a type of person that I find it very hard for me to work on projects like just for fun. I know that probably like sounds a little bit strange, but I really try to like work on projects with like an end result or an end purpose in mind. I mean, it really depends. Like sometimes, like, man, sorry, Shane. I feel like I'm like really overdoing this right now. I just needed to like retweak this back to its kind of origin. Okay, I could spend forever tweaking that hand, but I think I'm gonna leave it as is. Really like to submit this game to a festival or something. Yeah, totally. Have you ever participated in like a game jam? Sorry, I want to totally answer your other question, but probably 2023 festivals. Yeah, I think like having that kind of like long game or that like long trajectory for like how you're developing something is a great idea, or just like a great process, right? Like not getting too like ahead of yourself, as it were. Okay, this, I feel like this guy looks okay. Yeah, I feel like game jams are like a really good way of getting started. So like for instance, for this project actually didn't necessarily start as a game jam, but it did start as the writing, at least for this, started as a game jam for this outfit called Fortnightly Fiction Jam. I really like what they do. Let me show you, or I could post a link to their latest jam. Let me post this in the chat. But yeah, they like, it was a really good way for me to just like get started. Like I knew that I wanted to work on this project, and I was like really struggling with like getting up off the ground with it. And again, like a lot of my projects are like based in writing. Like I think, you know, I feel like I've said that like 100 times now. So to have that at my disposal, or have that Um, it was just like a really good way of being able to like get started, and it made for just like a really great dynamic like makeshift community to like pour myself into. So it was great with just like being able to yeah, like get started and like not worry so much about the end result, like be like satisfied that I was just like working on stuff and like getting things underway. It gave me like just yeah, really good motivation um, for like um, yeah, starting a project that I had kind of been like delaying for some time. So that was like yeah, exactly the kind of motivation that I needed. And so I encourage like people wanting to like work on ambitious longer term projects to like think about how they can make a prototype uh, you know, something a little bit shorter or something a little bit just like okay, instead of making the full scale or the full scope of the game, like how could you create like one chapter of it or like one scene that you know that like you're really interested in making, or the thing that like first comes to mind when you're thinking about like I want to make something that's like this. You know, and then going through the process of like executing that, right? Executing that thing. Okay, cool. So maybe like someone with their hands behind their back and like oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean the prototype that I made for this project was made in Unity. Absolutely. Yeah, man. Oops. I don't want to duplicate the rig. I want to duplicate the whole thing. Yeah, and like they run a Discord. You can probably see in that thing. They run a Discord. They're super friendly. I find they're like feedback and the community and in general, it's just like you know really warm and welcoming, and they have like a lot of advice and like tech help. I actually like the stuff that I was like dealing with this issue in Unity, I even went there to be like, hey, I'm like trying to figure out how I want to like recreate this look that I'm going for here, and you know, I'd love some thoughts and advice, and I got some good feedback. Some of which like I'm trying to incorporate into my project now, and some of which like I was just like, oh, that's something that I hadn't considered. Like I should really like think about that for like the future. But yeah, definitely they definitely encourage using whatever like whatever software like comes easiest. And sometimes like I would say too, like if you're like uncertain about like what tool you want to be using, or if you're like what should I say? If you're wanting to make like a prototype that you think is like just really like small and lightweight, or like something that you think would be like really easy for you to like wrap your arms around, I would encourage you to like think about using that too. Like instead of like doing something in Unity that's like Unity is such like a huge overblown like massive thing, like it's great obviously, but you know, maybe just to be like I just want to like figure out how the mechanics of this thing will work. Using like another tool could be like a really helpful way of doing that, just as like another thought. like I've done prototyping for not necessarily this project, but well, I guess like I don't know, ink in and of itself, the software that I'm using for or the tool I should say that I'm using for doing the branching narrative stuff for this project is using this thing called ink, and I should really I'm gonna put this at the beginning. You know, that was like super helpful for me to just like be able to like prototype out the ideas that I was like wanting to explore with this project. Even though that the like overall roadmap of this project has like definitely changed. It still like was really helpful to like have that conversation, or like to go through that process of like discovery on my own, and not to be like, okay, I have to like incorporate this into, you know, like I have to incorporate this into like a completely built like architecture or whatever. I don't know if that makes any sense, but maybe these guys' hands are like actually flat or like facing. I'm trying to think. No, they kind of like overlap in the back. Maybe that's not what I wanted. Just doing some quick character pose simulation. Yeah, there we go. Why am I able to turn this one so much and not this one? There we go. Yeah, totally. Shane, I'm like always around to like chat through that stuff. So like, I really like talking about like getting started with like game dev ideas and like, you know, what are the like right spots or right places to like think about, you know. So like definitely feel like if you ever want to like talk about that stuff further, I'm always down. I mean, the like answer to your previous question too is like I want this guy to be standing more upright, I feel like. Yeah, let me do the hips. Sorry, I feel like I keep like starting my assessment and then like get distracted by posing this character. actually think that he's okay. Sorry, what was I saying, Shane? I was like starting to mention something about game dev stuff and oh, your initial question, right? Like, how do I get started on a project, or how do I like start thinking about making the thing that I want to be making? I think that was like one of your initial questions. And I think a good answer to that question is like, yeah, like playing things or looking at things that you're just like interested in, and like, yeah, gaining that inspiration, right? Like just as you were saying, like playing inside, like you were saying, and being like, whoa, I just like am really into the way that this like looks or feels, or how this like storytelling, right, works in this environment, and just being like, yeah, really inspired by that, and like by wanting to like say something similar, or like wanting to pull from, you know, what you're like looking at, and figure out if that's like something that you want to, you know, explore doing yourself. But I think also like the important thing is being like, you know, what is it, not just like look wise, but what is it like emotionally or figuratively, or like conceptually, that's like of that like you want to like explore in your own thing. Like I think the thing that's like really interesting about a game like Inside, for instance, is that it's telling this story of like loss and grief and like assimilation and like mass culture, and like staying within the confines of like culture and society, in this like very, very subtle way, like not in a way that I think that's like overblown or too wrought. It feels like just right. And so I think thinking about like tone is like super important. Like, what is the overall tone of the thing? Do you want it to be like, do you want it to be aggressive? Do you want it to be relaxing? Do you want it to be stressful? Do you want it to be like tense? Do you want it to be contemplative? Do you want it to be, you know, like something that you can only like play for 5 minutes at a time, and then you like walk away from it and like think about something else? You know, there's a lot of different like tones and a lot of different like end feelings that you can like, you know, aim for in a piece. And I think the more that designers think about tone, the more they're kind of the easier, I would say, the easier then it becomes to kind of like design to that. Cool is hard, because like what's cool to you is like not necessarily cool to like everyone. You know what I mean? Like your cool is not my cool, which is not to say that like not to invalidate your cool by any means, but like I think cool is way more nebulous, right? Like cool doesn't like is very stratifying, right? Like there's not a one universal cool. And I think aiming for cool is sometimes aiming for the middle, right? Like you're aiming for something that like is so subjective, right? Whereas I think like, so I would say that it's maybe not a tone, right? Like what is a cool, the answer to that question kind of in a certain way is like, what is a cool tone? You know what I mean? Like, is a cool tone to you like thoughtful? Is a cool tone to you like horror? Is a cool tone to you like puzzle based. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's like a lot of different ways in which you could like answer that question for you individually. Um, but I think that a lot of it maybe comes down to um, like what's the feeling or the affect that you want the player to come away with at the end of your experience. I think I actually posted this over in the Discord in what you reading. Let me just see. Or maybe let me see if I can find it really quick. Oh, it's actually in the link reference, I think. I'm going to paste it in the chat really quick. One of the people actually that runs that fortnightly fiction jam that I just talked about is this this really amazing narrative designer, or I think really thoughtful narrative designer, Stacey Mason, and she wrote this very short text that's basically about tone versus mood, that I think could be like instructive to like answering some of those questions that you're asking, right? It's really short. It's like a super shorthand thing, but I think it does like a good job of like delineating between some of those questions that you're thinking about, like what you're like hoping to get from like the design. Okay, I'm gonna like make one more guy here. Maybe somebody that's like putting their arm or hand on another one of their buddies here. Yeah, totally. You should, Shane. Yeah, like I said, like they're a pretty like welcoming group, so I would definitely encourage you to check them out. Shane, I see your question there. Are there any AAA titles you see doing something especially sophisticated in terms of storytelling or game mechanics? Oh, that's a really tough question. Like, I don't, it's funny when I think about like AAA games, like I really think about like console games, and I like really don't play a lot of by console I mean like big publisher, right? Like uh, or like big developer. Um, I think like what Naughty Dog is like trying to do is like interesting. I think that they kind of like not exactly like muck it up, but like they like. Sorry, I'm like having this difficulty here. I feel like these people should be differently sized too. Sorry, hold on. Let me come back to that question. I think that, yeah, what Naughty Dog is like generally trying to do is like makes a lot of sense. Or not a lot of sense, but I think that they're trying at least this like this thing where they like are really thinking about narrative, and they're thinking about like game direction and like narrative flow and stuff like that. I think they have a hard time reconciling that with like the like action violence thing that they're like also doing. But I think in general what they're like trying to do is like really think about storytelling, and to really think about like character based like decision making, and not like in this like cheesy sorry. Oh man, this like Rigify thing sometimes like is really unforgiving. There, that seems more natural. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna like halt here just to answer your question, Shane. I know you gotta go. Yeah, Naughty Dog. I think like what they're trying to do in like The Last of Us, or even in like Uncharted, the way that they're trying to do like storytelling in this like very dynamic and like very like high energy and like high polish way, I think is really interesting. But I do think that where they struggle is like trying to reconcile these like nuanced storytelling and this questioning of like morality, or this questioning of yes, what they're interested in doing, and or like character motivations and stuff like that. They're trying to do that against like these action oriented games, these like action adventure games, which like sometimes don't like just like don't reconcile that very well, in my opinion. Like don't reconcile like how like violence with contemplativeness. I mean, that's just me. That's just my take. Like, I don't think that they necessarily like are struggling with that, because obviously they're finding a lot of success. But I think that they are maybe like questioning the validity of making a game with like a lot of violence in it also have like a lot of morality in it. Yeah, that's like my hot take on what they're doing. I don't know. What do you think, Shane? Do you think that they're? I'm curious to hear what you think about that. I played The Last of Us, and I don't follow the drama around its sequel, but the question stemmed from feeling that because of the size of video game budgets, developers and publishers are going to be hesitant as far as taking risks in their game design. I mean, yeah, absolutely, Shane. I think that that's 100% accurate. I mean, like, it's very hard to, like, justify, I think, it's very hard to justify, like, experiments when you know, your funding mechanism is really based on, like, ROI, right? Like, return on investment. So, like, I do think that that's, like, particularly risky, right, for larger companies to, like, really think about whether or not they can even feasibly do that. I would also say that, like, sorry. I would also say it's just, like, not very interesting. I think, like, a lot of people, for, like, a lot of audiences, right? For, like, big audiences, right? I don't think that they're, like, interested in playing games that have, like, particularly, like, complex or, like, nuanced, like, stories. I know that sounds, like, very, like, harsh or, like, glib or something, but, like, I I don't fault players for, like, not wanting to play, like, particularly, you know, difficult subject material games. Like, you know, I think that a lot of people want to play games that are like fun and like you know sorry, like fun and engaging. I think it creates an environment where a lot of AAA titles begin to feel the same. Like fundamentally, I don't think that there's a huge difference between a game like God of War and The Last of Us. Funnily enough, those are developed by the same. Those are both Naughty Dog. But I take your point in hand, which is like the window dressing of both of those games is ostensibly the same, right? Like the kind of heartstrings that they're like hoping to pull on is like, yeah, it's like very similar between the two games. So like, and I think it's like the same problem of like things like, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, right? Where it's like, what is the thing that they find most successful? It's like, oh, like family. That's like just an easy trope to like go back to over and over and over again, because it's one that's like really successful, like one that's like easy to iterate on, and like one that one that makes a lot of sense for that franchise. Like what's a better unit of metric, or unit of measurement to like there we go. Yeah, what's a better unit of measurement? That sounds like a problem. The film industry. Yeah, totally, absolutely. I mean, it's exactly what I was just saying there. Right, like tropes are helpful because they like are reliable, right? Like us, like people, audiences, like masses, right, are interested in like reliable stories, right? Like we're interested in narratives that are like easy to follow. That's not a critique necessarily of like the studios that are doing that work. It's a reality that they like have to live with, right? I mean, it is. I mean, we should abide by better standards, of course, and we should want things that are like more challenging and more interesting, and we should expect stories to challenge us in a lot of different ways. But when you're working in a kind of market economy, you need to aim for the middle. And the unfortunate thing is that the middle is by and large pretty boring, right? The middle is like very uniform, but there's not I don't know. I that's like a much larger conversation, I feel like, but you're totally right and you're totally accurate in that it's not just a problem of games, right? It's a problem of like creative media in general, and it's why niches exist, and it's why like spaces on the margins can sometimes be like more rewarding than the mainstream, right? Because you get the thing that really like speaks to you in this like very specific way. Okay, so I think I've like created this like nice little group here. Shane, yeah, well said. It's really funny, man. It's really funny. Yeah, I mean, like, again, like, my response to that is like, and why the heck not? Like, why the heck not? Why wouldn't you want to, get a PS5, right? Like, yeah, you too, man. I'll see you. I think next Wednesday, right? Next Wednesday, I think, is when the campaign starts. So I'm really excited to play. I can't wait to see your character come together. Definitely post in the Discord when you've posted it to the group. When you've how could you say like added it to Justin's campaign. Cool. Awesome, man. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for joining. Okay, I think that this little group is like good as it is. I probably need, thanks so much. I definitely need to like swap out some of these hats. Like they're looking a little bit too familiar right now. But I think that that's something for like a later date. I don't need to like worry so much about that right now. Maybe I just get rid of one of the hats. Now they seem really bald, but yeah, I should look at the source material, right? Like, yeah, some of them have these like newsy caps. Yeah, maybe I want to do that at some point. But let's move on to the next thing. Did I already? Yeah, I named this buddy group rig. All right. Cool. Just checking on a couple things, but I think in general I'm okay. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my list here of my prototype to do. So I'll just check off multiple figures right now. I can kind of export these as individual things. I should probably like bake the animation poses there, but that's okay. So what should maybe we should just go down the list. I don't want to do this 1932 pickup just yet because I feel like the car is going to take some time. Tents though, I should really work on making some tents. Yeah, I'm gonna have to work on like something too to like iterate on all these different figures. Maybe I'm gonna have to like create a whole bunch more of these, just like with some variety and some variation, and then figure out if there's like a way that I can kind of like populate my scene with a bunch of them. I'm gonna take a short break actually. I feel like I'm at a good stopping point. And I'm gonna come back and look at making more like tents and stuff. So let me just switch back over to this. I'm gonna be back real soon. Yeah, I'm just gonna like refill on some coffee and stuff. Cool. Be right back. Okay, hello. Sorry that took me a little bit longer than I anticipated. It's just the coffee wasn't warm and I wanted to warm it up. So let's see. Now somebody's calling me. Hold on 1 second, let me just check who this is. Somebody telling me about my car warranty expiring. Which, you know, if you know me, I have
I've been rapping for a month.
Why did this go off? Oh, here we go. Okay. Again, sorry about all that. The thing that I wanted to do was so I want to make this like tent object. I almost feel like I'm gonna kind of make a drapey thing. Again, I'm trying to keep things like relatively low poly. Let's see, create a vertex group here, call this pin. I'm gonna add the cloth modifier and shape, yeah, pin group. Oh, I didn't assign that group, didn't I? Assign. Mm-hmm. Because again, I'm going to look at my kind of reference here. So I have, yeah, maybe I went kind of more, so I have one that's kind of like that here. But I also should probably make these more kind of complex ones, right? These kind of more cone yurt looking ones. So I'll use this kind of as a starting point. I almost feel like, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply this. And then maybe I'll just drag down these. Whoa. It's kind of this like low thing. Doesn't even like come all the way to the ground. I'm looking at this one on the left hand side here. Yeah, and then it's kind of tied by some rope to the side. It's kind of draped, I guess you could say, on that. I feel like it should be flattened a little bit. Yeah, the slope of this is not. I'm just going to make this ever so slightly oblong. So again, we want to try to avoid straight edges whenever possible. And then, oops, I'm going to create some creases in this. Some slight creases. I guess I can create a couple more here. Yeah, it's just a little variation. That looks pretty good, actually. Wonder if I... No, I think that's good as is. And maybe... just twist that a little bit. I think I should actually counter twist this just a little bit. Yeah, I like that. Wonder how this looks smooth. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's keep it flat for now. Okay. I should really be looking at the kind of new creasing and smearing brushes in Blender. I feel like I would get a lot of really nice textures, but I feel like that's too high level detail for what I'm looking for. Little sip of the coffee here. Now, just making little twigs and tree branch like things. This might not look very interesting or sophisticated, but I'm gonna add a little subsurf to this to not that drastic. So I want to put this in the relative position of where like the top of this canopy is, because I feel like, I don't know, just as a rough guideline. Almost kind of look the way that look, or like the way that looks without the subsurf on it. Let's see how it looks with the subsurf. Yeah, I think we should keep it with the subsurf. Even just that one dimension, I think, looks good. And then how high does it goes pretty high up from it's yeah, let's see. Yep, just a little bit of slight variation. I think that looks perfectly fine. So there's this kind of one, maybe this needs to be a little bit more kind of thick. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah. Again, just like subtle notches, nothing too extreme or noticeable. I also feel like maybe this should be. Let me get the wireframe of this. This should be tapering a little bit. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so that's a nice little twig, little branch. I feel like now what I need are like these other like support ones. Actually, yeah, I'm kind of mixing my things here. So I have this like one thing here that's like this. I can't tell whether or not this is like actually hitting the ground. It kind of looks like it is, but I don't know. This looks like it's just like draping on this. So maybe it's just like a rope or something that's like tying these together. That might be more accurate, and then it's like kind of draping on that rope. Yeah, so I'll probably need like other supports on the other sides. So yeah, let's just, for the sake of, having some fun and making these things like really unique. I should probably make that cross one in a second, but I'll start with these like little, I feel like these are even like kind of thicker than the main tent pole, but I'm not sure. Oops. The trick to this is like not to be like overwhelming or over obvious, but just very, I mean, in my opinion, very subtle. Right. So that, the things that end up kind of branching off and stuff like that don't look that noticeable. So for instance, like I think that this is like a little bit too noticeable. So I would probably right? Bring in this just a little bit. And then maybe make it so that I wasn't jutting out as much. Yeah, and just for the sake of rotating that a little bit. Yeah, again, we're never going to be looking at it at such a close distance. Like, we're always going to be looking at it from, here and further. So I can kind of repeat this asset. Over here, again, no one's going to be paying attention too closely to this, and just for my own edification, because I am a proponent of the devil being in the detail, I will just add one very small modification to this. Just because I like doing that. Maybe that's too much of a twist. Yeah, that seems fine. Cool. I think that's perfectly fine. Okay. All right. A couple more variations on this. Vary the height of these maybe a little bit. Okay. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Make sure I have a loop at the bottom here, so when the subsurf happens, it doesn't mess that up too much. Let's see, do I really need any more like knots in this thing? Maybe one here. Maybe a little bit too much. Yeah, I might want to like start the scale and then extrude it out like this. I feel like that was a little bit more successful. All right, let's apply that subsurf. Yeah, I think that works a little bit better, but it's fine. Just a loop in here, give us a little bit of sense of off balance. Cool. Yeah, I mean, you know, there is a world in which I could have definitely modeled out these sticks first and then draped it over there, but I think that I don't know, I don't really need to get the like collision detail that refined. Cool. Check it out. All right, so now I need my like little cross situations, and then this had flaps on the front? No, not really. There's like kind of a flap in the middle. I like that there's also like a sign on it. Maybe I should be looking at this picture too. Oh yeah, it does kind of come down to the end here. So maybe I don't need to have those extra supports. Yeah, maybe I don't need those extra supports, so maybe I'll just use those. Sorry, I'm looking at, I think that people can see that on the stream. Yeah, I'm just looking at my source imagery there in OneNote. I think I kind of like, oh, I guess I can use these as the back post. that's better. Okay. Okay. Does that look okay? I feel like it does. Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have to make a lot of variations of this, but that's okay. Yeah, maybe this... Hey, Jack. Wait a second. I know. I hate to be so confusing. Yeah. Jack, I think we've talked about this before, right? Like, I think that that I prefer using Blender with my own projects. I don't know if we have actually talked about this before, but yeah, surprise. Good to see you, man. I'm glad that you could catch the stream today. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, kind of make this a cross one. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that jives with my memory. How are you doing, man? How was your week? You doing okay? Oh, cool. What's your internship, Jack? I've been pretty good. Thank you for asking. Just kind of plugging away at doing some project stuff. I don't think I need to make this really that complicated, since I don't think anybody is really going to be seeing it anyways. Working as a technology consultant, that's rad. I think you told me this already, but who is it with again? I know that you've told me this already, and I apologize. Right. EY, that's right. Yeah, you told me that. Cool. Well, I'm glad that the internship is going well, bud. So again, I don't know why I added all that unnecessary detail in there, because nobody's going to see it, but, you know, like I say, the gosh darn devil is in the detail. Yeah, I am doing okay. I'm gearing up for, you know, taking a little bit of time off this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that. Some time away from the city. That should be really good and rewarding, seeing some family, or I should say seeing some extended family. Hanging out with my partner and our kid. Yeah, just a little bit of time off, not a ton. But yeah, it should be good. I'm looking forward to that immensely this weekend. Okay, cool. I'm like trying to like compare these two images that I have this one image and then I have this other one. Maybe I should just kind of drape this stuff down. I don't know. I'm like having a hard time. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the time off, Jack. Did I? Oh, geez Louise, I never switched it. Oh my gosh, Jack, thanks so much. What would I do without you? I've been like sitting here working on this stupid Blender project. And I had taken a quick break to refill my coffee and stuff, and I just never, That's frustrating. I'm still like trying to get used to some of this, like some of the streaming aspects of like what I'm working on. I don't want it to be like that boring or that like plain, because I don't really think. Maybe I'm just gonna extrude a couple times. I know that looks horrendous, but actually, let me do this thing really quick. I'm gonna take these back. Yeah, Jack, I'll explain it in 1 second. Just gonna reflatten this and then kind of do this again. Do I still have my pin? Yes, I do. I will show you in 1 second, my friend. I'm gonna do some cloth. I'm gonna use the pin group. Why isn't this visible in this scene? Okay, my cloth simulator is not working all of a sudden. So let's try to bake this then. I don't need to bake this for, I just need to bake this for like, what was it? 50 frames. And I'll pin this. I'll show you in just 1 second, Jack, I promise. Okay, cool. So this just doesn't want to do the thing anymore. So because I already... Yeah, right? Okay. Did I accidentally assign the entire pin group? Okay, let's just get rid of this. Create a new group. Assign. Select that. Okay. Cloth. Well then, that's really frustrating. Can I go back to where it was actually a cloth? No, of course not. Okay, so let's just... Alright. So, we just have to start over. That's cool. Jack, these tents that I'm making, they are for the people camping out at this place, Camp McCloskey. The source imagery you can actually see in the stream in the lower right-hand corner. I can make those bigger at a certain point. But let me just try to get this cloth simulator to work. Okay, so now it works. I guess once you apply a cloth group, it doesn't let you reapply it, which to me just seems like totally stupid bonkers. I don't know why it would do that. I feel like I want to change the air velocity. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, there are some differences in terms of setup, Jack. Absolutely. The way that like the hierarchy works in cinema is like you don't do a lot of hierarchy work in Blender. Instead, you do it through these like kind of like modifiers and panel work. but you know, the topology editing that you do is almost identical. So like the way that like the 3D model has the components that we've talked about. So I feel like now when I press apply, it's not going to let me modify this again, but that's okay. But yeah, like when I go into an edit mode, right, you can see like it has vertexes, edges, and surfaces or faces. So a lot of like the key components are exactly the same. Just gonna kind of edit the way that this looks a little bit so that just a little bit. And then I'm gonna scale this out. Okay, and then I had done all this editing. Well, it's kind of nice that I get to revisit this, I guess, since I had done all this editing to this object previously that people didn't get a chance to see. Just like doing some minor tweaks. To make it less static looking, or not static, but to make it less seem like it's so like kind of prefab-y. Always enjoy doing some kind of devil in the detail work. So just adding in a couple of little wrinkles. And I really liked how that first one looked. I'm like very upset with how the fact that I couldn't just extend that. Or I'm not really upset, but just a little frustrating. So just adding a little bit of like dents and details and stuff like that. Maybe I want to scale this up along the Z just a little bit. I'm gonna try to flatten those bottom edges. Yeah, I want to make sure that this is like kind of resting above that stick, of course. Doesn't need to be perfectly on there. Maybe I'll even put in another couple of edge loops here, just to give that top crease a little bit more. Oops, no, I don't want to hide that. I just want to grab this, kind of have that folded over. Okay, that looks pretty good actually. Yeah, totally, Jack, thanks, man. I don't need to get like too fancy here. But I like adding just like little elements of detail. Because I think that detail stuff makes a lot of difference. Kind of create a little lip at the end there. Maybe I could do that over here too. Just a little bit of a raised lip, yeah. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. So here's my little makeshift tent. I feel like I need to like create some string around these. Maybe that's like too much level of detail. I don't think I really need that. The detail set it apart. Yeah, definitely, Jack. I totally agree with you. Now the trouble is, I know it might be hard to see on your screen, but the trouble is like I can't tell how these are actually like fixed to the ground. It seems like some of them still have these like tent pole supports, but they're more like it's you know what I mean? Like they're more. Try to flatten this out because I feel like should be like draping a little bit more on the bottom. And then maybe I could still use these like kind of support sticks, but maybe they're just like a lot smaller. Maybe they're like going through the mesh of this a little bit more, so it seems like they're more like attached. I'm kind of faking this a little bit. It seems a little bit too small. Let me, I'm gonna adjust the pivot point on this, so when I'm scaling, it's scaling from the bottom as opposed to the center. And then, no, and then I have to go to Object Transform. Oh no, Set Origin to 3D Cursor, yeah. I have to head it up, but good luck with the project. Just see how it ends up. Thanks, Jack. Yeah, check out the earlier moments in the stream. I was modeling and doing some character rigging if you're interested in that thing, so you should definitely check that out. Thanks for stopping by, man. Good to hear you. Good to hear that you're doing well, and I hope the internship keeps going well, bud. I should be around next Monday if you have a chance to come in to hang out. Cool. Be well, bud. Okay, so even though that minor setback... Cool, great. I'll talk to you then, Jack. Yeah, even though I had that minor setback, I think I'm still... like in a good spot. So I'm just going to duplicate these. And I talked about this before, but I think that I'm going to need more variation of these tents because, right, obviously, if we looked at the source imagery that we had, I actually think that that looks pretty good. Obviously, there's like some stuff that I should probably put in here, like a bedroll or like a knapsack. But I feel like maybe I want to make those as like separate objects so that I can make things a little bit more modular. If I look at this, like, you know, they have these like little bedrolls or like sheets, buckets. I mean, that's on my list of like things to make. Yeah, but I kind of would like to recreate something that looks like this. That's kind of like almost like a half tent. So I have this like main tent object, which I feel like, if I look at this, I feel like this needs to be like wider. Yeah. That seems a lot more accurate. And I feel like I need to do... There should be more of this, like roll cuff. Like I'm looking at some of these and I see that there's... Oops. I don't need proportional editing on. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Yeah, I kind of like that. I could definitely design like a little bit of like a flap thing here. Because definitely some of these like appear to have flaps. Maybe I don't need to worry about that's like maybe too much level of detail for right now. Okay, let me adjust my sticks. Yeah, I feel like that this one is like way more makeshift. There's definitely ones in some of these images that like seem a lot more like quote unquote military grade, right? Like that seem like more like actually camp suited. Um, but let's kind of move on to the next one. I think that this is like okay for right now. I feel like this could be a little bit higher because there's like a... Oops. When I realize that I'm like close to the end of my stream. So maybe I want to just like do my little like sign hang that is here. Yeah. So just like looking at that picture, I feel like that there's like kind of like sign of like, this is what's going on at this camp. Give it a little bit of dimension, and then a little bit of variation. Because if I look in this image here, there's like this like little, there's something attached here, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe that's even a flag, or like a little designation post, but yeah, maybe I don't need anything more than that. Yeah, I feel like this is like a good stopping point. So let me just save this asset and bring this into my models thing within Unity. So like tent, simple 01. I should probably like join all of these things together and get rid of the light. Don't need the light, don't need the camera. I can join all of these together. Oops. Just kidding, I don't want to do that yet because I want to apply the subsurf to these. Which is perfect. That I feel like will get me to the end of the day. This doesn't have a subsurf on it, right? Oh, what's this? Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, and I'm gonna rename this too, just simple tent. Cool, and then I can actually get rid of this vertex group because I don't need it anymore. And then, great. And I should probably, I'm gonna make the ground of this the cursor to world origin, and then object set origin to 3D cursor. Yep. So that now when I'm like scaling this and moving this and blah 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 blah, I should probably apply the scale. Control S. How do I do that again? It's like Control Alt S or Control Shift S. No. I always forget the I can't remember. It's fine. I'll look it up later and apply it, but I should get in the habit of doing that so that things have a uniform scale. But yeah, this looks fine. I think this is good. I can definitely incorporate this. Okay, so let's check this off the list. In my prop list, my to-do prop list. Well, I have multiple tents. I'm gonna say, I'll add stuff here. Simple tent is done. And then, like, canopy tent. And then, like, cone tent. Or maybe instead of canopy tent, I could say, like, multi-tent. Okay, cool. I gotta do the campfire, I gotta do the makeshift facility. I got a lot of more assets to make, obviously. Some of these are gonna take a very, very short amount of time, and I can use some of the assets from here, like flagpoles, temporary fencing. I could use, for instance, right, I could use these kind of like sticks and logs stuff that I have here and, you know, modify those for the temporary fencing pretty easily. So that stuff might not take as long as some of the stuff that I've worked on today. But like I said, you know, I'm going to be ending a little bit earlier today. I've got some errands to run before taking the weekend off. I hope that people have a good weekend. Just moving that ever so slightly. Just wanting to even out that crease a little bit. Yeah, that looks better. Yep, okay, taking off. That's it for me today. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Shane for joining me. Thanks, Davin. Lots of great voices in the chat today. Great questions, conversations. Looking forward to continuing to work on this project next week. I'm going to be doing more Blender stuff, just getting more and more assets to incorporate into the project so that we can really start building out the map and incorporating things. And I'm still going to tinker around with. I'm going to show this last bit before. I'm still going to tinker around with this like stencil idea that I started kind of messing with here. I'm kind of excited by that. So we'll see where that goes. But that's it for now. Take care, everybody. Be well. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.